All right. So yesterday we were on page 488, and we started talking about the Ketores. We started talking about the incense that they burned in the base of me, if you remember, on page 488. So it says Vayomer. It's right in the middle of the page, right? Pasuk Lamed. Vayomer Hashem al Moshe, Kach lecha samim notav u'shcheles v'chalbena samim u'levona zaka bad bevad yiyeh. So there's something interesting we learn over here, that the chalbena, if you look at Rashi, it's on the, can't see anything. Where's my? Last slide. Okay, last line on the right column of Rashi on 488. So this chalbena is one of the spices that's mixed in with the ketores. And Rashi says, Bosem sherecho ra. It's some sort of spice that has a bad fragrance, an unpleasant fragrance. Why are you putting this in the ketores? The korilo gelbena. That's the, what do you call it? The uminoa kosu bein samamene akor. The Torah counts it among the other spices that go into the ketores compound. Lilamdenu, to teach us. Shelo yakel be'einenu, we shouldn't take it lightly. Litzaref ibanu ba'agudas taniosenu, when we fast and we have a communal gathering. Vitfilosenu es poshe Yisrael. Even the sinners are gathered with us. We keep the sinners with us too. They count also. And that's why we say on Yom Kippur, right before it called Nidre, that we invite in even the sinners to join us for the Yom Kippur tefillas. That we don't count them out. That's the chalbena. Now, practically, the commentaries say the chalbena actually helped to produce, somehow there was some sort of reaction when the chalbena, this unpleasant spice, was put in. Somehow this brought out the good smell. Sometimes they work together. I don't know how these things work, but somehow the one compound, one worked with the other. But that's what we learned. That when you're gathering everybody in, you're gathering all these pleasant spices, include the sinners in also. I mean, we never count out anybody. Everybody among the Jewish people could do tshuva. Everybody could do tshuva. Even White Sox fans could do tshuva. They haven't gone lost. One day they could repent. Right? It's hard to repent when you're such a sinner, but you could repent. So here the Torah says that you what do you call it? The Torah says that we include them. Now, what's interesting is when they made the incense, there was a chant that he would make. He would say, Hadek hetev hetev hadek. Hadek hatev hatev hadek. Crush, good crushing. Crush, good, grind it, well grinded. There's like a chant. When he would make the chant, when he would do it, he would actually chant as he did it. And the Gemara says, Hakol yafa lebesamim. Making a sound is good for grinding up the incense. Now, why is that? Why is it that the sound is good for grinding it up? That's what Gemara says. By the way, it says when they dealt with the wine, you were silent. You're quiet for the wine. No talking. Silence is good for the wine. Why? I think that first of all, there's a practical explanation, at least for the incense. The wine, I'm not sure. I speculate on the wine. Why is it that when you're grinding up, you chant it hadek hetev hetev hadek, hadek hetev hetev hadek? The practical reason is that somehow you get into a rhythm. You're grinding up this incense, this powder, and you're grinding it up well. So when you ground it up, you chanted. That was the practical reason. Whenever you're doing something, sometimes if you sing while you're doing something, it gets you into a rhythm, and you want to grind it up, and you want to grind it up well. So they say hadekete. But I saw an interesting explanation. Some of them, unfortunately, say that the powder smell was very powerful, and if you breathe in this way, when you're chanting, you're breathing out. And when you breathe out, so you're preventing yourself from taking it in. Sometimes you can take in the dust. You're taking this, what do you call it? This incense. It apparently is a very, very strong incense. If any of you guys use snuff, because you ever been in a Hasidic shtibel where they give out snuff, and you take some of those. You know what snuff is, don't you? They're like the little tobacco thing there, and you what do you call it? And how it gets you to sneeze. But here, around the ketores, you don't want to be sneezing. If a guy sneezes and scatters the Ketorah, it's expensive stuff. Do you ever see, there was a movie, Woody Allen, there's a famous line, Woody Allen, I think it was in Annie Hall. Woody Allen is sitting around with a bunch of yuppies in California, and they got a couple of lines of cocaine on the table. This cocaine is lined up on the table. They're all rolling up bills to snort the cocaine. And Woody Allen, with his messy hair, is trying to be cool with all these yuppies. And they put out the cocaine, and all of a sudden he sneezes and scatters the whole table full of cocaine. So here, we don't want anybody, you don't want to breathe it in because it could actually be damaging. That's what the Parsha says. As you're chanting, somehow you're breathing out. Now, I suspect, I don't know this for sure, I'm only speculating, that by the wine, it could be that when they were dealing with the wine, if you spoke, the vapor from the mouth could affect the wine negatively. So you don't say anything by the wine. I'm not sure. But here, that's what the Meforshim say. Okay. Now, take a look at Perek Lamed Aleph, Pasuk Yud Ches. Skip on ahead. Yesterday we spoke about Shabbos. And then on page 492, 3 lines from the bottom. So, after the command of the Shabbos, Moshe Rabbeinu, it says, Vayitein el Moshe kechalosa ledaber ito behar Sinai shnei luchos ha'edus. Hashem gives Moshe, when he finishes speaking to him, the two, does he translate his tablets? Yeah. He does translate tablets. We still haven't got a better word for luchos. He gives him the 2 tablets of testimony, luchos even, tablets of stone, ksuvim be'etzba elokim, written with God's hand. And if you stop and think about it, this is physical evidence. Remember, Moshe Rabbeinu goes up on a mountain. He goes up, he's got nothing in his pocket. He's up there for 40 days. He's got no food, he's got no provisions. He's going up to a mountain. There's a cloud. Moshe Rabbeinu walks into a cloud with no provisions up a mountain. And 40 days later, he comes down with these tablets of stone. Now, he had no way of knowing in advance there are a couple of pieces of stone up on the mountain. God gave him tablets of stone, solid evidence of God. This is solid evidence of God in physical form that Moshe Rabbeinu comes down from the mountain with. The only piece of solid God evidence that we have. In other words, everything we understand that there's a God, or it's all in an intellectual belief with proofs and everything else. Here he comes down with 2 pieces of stone that God handed him from heaven. 2 tablets of stone that are written in God's writing. And when Moshe Rabbeinu later breaks them, the next set, who makes the next set of stone? Moshe Rabbeinu makes the next set of stone. So here we lost raw, solid evidence given by God to the, besides the earth itself, which is raw, solid evidence. But here, boom, he hands them down from heaven 2 tablets of stone. Now you'll notice, Rashi says, "Kichaloso ledaber ito." I'll give you guys a little insight. Rashi, and I don't think it's an accident. If you take a look, Rashi, the right column of Rashi, he says like this: Kichaloso, right column, 4 lines from the bottom. So kichalosa should really be written with another vav. Kichalosa, there should be a vav after the lamed, but it doesn't have one. Says Rashi, kichaloso ksiv. It's written like a kala. Choser, it's missing the vav. Shenimser la Torah b'matana. The Torah was given like a gift. Kikala l'chasam, like a bride to a groom. The Torah is given like a gift. Why? Why do we need this gift? Because he couldn't learn all the Torah in such a short time. So the Torah had to be given him a gift. That means Moshe Rabbeinu was up on the mountain for 40 days, 40 nights, and he's studying Torah. What was he doing up there? He was learning Torah. But he comes down with the entirety of Torah. The entirety of Torah is given him as a gift, because there wasn't enough time to learn Torah. Now, what that really means is, if you've ever learned a piece of Gemara, you try to learn a piece of Gemara. So you read it over 3 times, 4 times, 5 times, and all of a sudden on the 6th time, boom, click, something happened. What changed? It was the same words that you read over from the beginning. Why? What changed from the first time that you read it that all of a sudden now you understood it on the 6th time? You didn't understand it the 1st, 2nd, 3rd, or 4th time. The 6th time you understood it. We have to understand that understanding and wisdom is a gift that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is giving us. Don't ever get like, that's what Tosos means. Oh, that's what the Kasha is. Why didn't you understand it the first time? What happened? You're working at it. The answer is you were given a gift. That means, but you have to earn the gift. And to earn the gift, you have to put in the work. You have to make the effort. After you make the effort, don't think that you understood it. You made the effort, then HaKadosh Baruch Hu said, okay, now I'm giving you the gift. You've earned the gift. Not because we managed to do it on our own, but even more than that. Look what Rashi says. It's written as a kala, like a kala is given to a chassan. Now what does that mean? So, when a couple gets married, at the kala, there's a certain freshness in the beginning, right? There's a freshness, there's an excitement. You have a wedding and everybody's dancing and everybody's singing and wondering how something so short-lived could cost so much money. And everybody's singing and dancing and all excited. You have a couple of shots over there and a good time is had by all. And there's a certain freshness, a certain excitement. You don't find people who are married 40 years going, that same freshness and excitement. Something else developed, but not that sort of thing. Here, Moshe says, like a kala. And it's interesting, he says, because in that short amount of time, it wasn't enough time to learn Torah. I got news for you, gentlemen. It's not enough time to get to know the girl. Right? You go out, you got a kala. We've dated with this and that and the other. Got news for you. No matter how long you've dated, you're in for some surprises. Right? Yeah, it's not enough time to get to learn her up. It takes a lifetime. And here the Torah is telling you that the happiness, the joy of Torah, the excitement of Torah, that means every time we sit down to learn a piece of Gemara, it should be like the kala, right? The excitement and the freshness that a married couple has. That's what should be there when a person sits down to learn Torah. Now, let's take a look at these luchos. The luchos are made out of stone. There are 5 lessons. There are 5 lessons here. Why are the luchos made of stone? Then I'm going to tell you something really amazing that the Medrash says. The luchos, number 1, they're made of stone. Why are they made of stone? So you know that there's a source, I think the Zohar says, that the Torah existed in Shemayim as a black fire on a white fire, right? That the parchment in heaven, whatever this means, the parchment was made of white fire, and the writing was a black fire. The Torah existed as a black fire. That's a statement the Zohar says. Right? I guess when you got an aliyah, you had to be careful. If you touch it, oops, I did it again. See, a black fire on a white fire. Okay, what is that? So what happens? What's the source of fire in this world? How do you produce fire in this world? Torah is fire. By the way, we'll get there in a second. Torah is fire. You know what? Look at it right now. Turn back to the book of Bereshis. Anywhere in the book of Bereshis.
Torah is also compared to water, no?
Torah is compared to water. But take a look at the book of the Bereshis first. Turn anywhere to the book of the Bereshis. Look on top of the line. All the way at the top line. It doesn't matter which parsha. Just look all the way at the top where it says on in the right corner of the page, it says Sefer Bereshis. Right? On any page of Bereshis. See where it says Sefer Bereshis? Oh, good. Look at the 2 middle letters. What's the 2 middle letters? Aish. The Torah is, and look at the 2 first letters. What are the 2 first letters? Bar. Look at the last 2 letters. Bar. A Beis Resh Yud Tuf. What does Beis Resh Yud Tuf spell? Bris, a covenant. Covenant, and the 2 middle letters are fire. The Torah is a covenant of fire. The Torah is a covenant of fire. That means the Torah existed as a black fire on a white fire. And then it was given to Moshe Rabbeinu. Well, how do you want to take something spiritual and put it down into the physical world? So what's the thing that most similar in the physical world to that spiritual world is going to be fire? Well, how do you produce a fire in the physical world? You take 2 stones and you bang them together. 2 stones, right? That's how you produce fire. You take 2 stones, unless you've got a blowtorch, but they didn't have one in those days. So how do you produce a fire? You bang 2 stones together. So first of all, the luchos are 2 stones. Symbolically, that the fire that we produce is really a parallel to the fire that was the Torah existed as a fire in Shemayim. Number 1. Number 2, the only way, there's a source in the Gemara that says, if you want to remember Torah, there's always a problem. Didn't you ever notice that? You learn, how many pages of Gemara have we learned this month? 4, 5, 8. 8 pages of Gemara. If you think about it, it's not that much text. It's not that much text. How well do you remember what we learned 3 pages ago? Ish, right? Ish. Right? Why? There's something about Torah. There's only one way to remember Torah. And the Gemara says, the only way to remember Torah is to make your cheeks like stone, meaning they are tireless and constantly reviewing what you've learned. And without the constant review, it doesn't happen. We're going to see about later why it doesn't happen. Do you know why we forget Torah, by the way? You know what caused forgetting Torah? Do you know that's right. Do you know that originally Torah wasn't going to be forgotten? When Moshe Rabbeinu came down with the first Luchos, Torah wasn't going to be forgotten. How would you like that? How do you like that, Chaim? Right? You learn Torah and you remember it all. You remember the Migu and you remember Daf Lamed Ches, you remember the Tosa, you remember it all. You just learn it once and you remember it. Then what happened? We'll see later on. He smashes the tablets. When he smashed the Luchos, there was decreed that people are going to forget Torah. Do you know why? What do we need that for? We got to forget it? Yeah, it's so hard. The Gemara says Torah is as difficult to acquire as gold, and it's easy to lose as glass. You ever have glass vessels in your house? Glass vessels, grandchildren, kiss it goodbye. That's what happens. So the combination, it's not a good, it doesn't last long. Gold, difficult to acquire gold. It's difficult to acquire Torah and it's easy to lose it. Why? Because by forgetting Torah, we're forced to spend our life involved in Torah. That way we can't have time to get involved in other things. When did this happen? When after the Jewish people sinned at the golden calf, Moshe Rabbeinu smashes the luchos. We'll see later on. We'll see if we don't get there today, we'll see tomorrow. Now, number 3. Number 4, what is the idea of written in stone? Right? We even have an expression in English. What's the expression in English? Carved in stone. What does it tell you that the Luchos Torah is carved in stone? What does that mean? Eternal. It's permanent and it's unchanging. Right? Torah is not going to change. No matter what happens, maybe things change, Torah doesn't change. And everything is in Torah. Everything is in Torah. Do you know that they have, just as an example, they have something today called artificial insemination. I'm just using this as an example. You're like, well, and it creates halachic questions. Artificial insemination, are you allowed to do it? Are you allowed to use artificial? What happens if there's artificial insemination? So I'll tell you an incredible question. A woman who's married, the Shaila came to her Moshe Feinstein. A woman is married, and her husband wasn't able to have children. So she went to an insemination. She had herself artificially inseminated without her husband knowing about it. She had herself inseminated. She had used donor sperm and she had herself out without her husband's knowledge, and she got pregnant. What is the status of that child? Is that child? Oh, he paskined. Right? Child's one of those southern hanging judges, right? He's all mom tree. Theoretically, it should be right. Now, in order to paskin a shiloh like that, how would you like to, most people think poskim, all poskim have to do all day is answer questions about fleishik spoons falling into milchik pots and people forgetting to say Yalav Yovo and Shmoneh. That's what people think a poskim does. There are other shilohs that are asked. How would you like to be asked that shiloh? And as the Shaila came to Moshe Feinstein, how'd you like to be asked that Shaila? So what do you say, Dylan? Mamzer, nail, right? Yeah, got another one, right? Okay. Listen, there's a lot of merit to what you're saying. Listen, she's married to Reuven and she has a baby from who knows who, right? Okay. So you know what Moshe said? We have a case, we have a precedent. And the precedent is the Gemara actually talks about a woman who a woman takes a bath. A man had been in the bath before her, and he had an emission in that bathtub. And then a woman went into the bath, and she became pregnant. Yeah. Well, you thought it was only about you thought it was only about whether the guy said whether he freed his slave or not, huh? You thought that's all there is in Shas. How do you like that? There's some interesting stuff there. Look at that. Yeah, it's a nida. Yeah. There you go. There's some interesting. Yeah, there's witchcraft also in the Gemara. You know that? There's also witchcraft. What's that?
And then she said God did it.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. It was him. Yeah. Yeah. All sorts of that witchcraft, idol worship, people spearing people. Yeah. There's all sorts of good stuff. So So, Moshe Feinstein said, based on the Gemara, Moshe Feinstein, it just shows you Torah is timeless. This is going on 3,000. Torah is, what do you call it? Torah is timeless. And based on that, Moshe Feinstein, by the way, he paskined that the baby is not a mamzer. Because he said a mamzer is only from an act of cohabitation. This was not an act of cohabitation. She went to a sperm bank and she got herself pregnant. It wasn't an act of cohabitation with another man. And based on proofs from the Gemara, Moshe Feinstein said the child's not a mamzer. However, he does say that, what's that? That it's wrong to do that. He says that the husband does not, the father is certainly wrong to do it, and the father does not have to, her husband does not have to take on financial support for the child. So whether or not you're allowed to, and all these shilas that come up, the Torah's time, it's carved in stone. It's permanent and it's unchanging. What are you laughing at though? My joke. Yeah. The Immaculate Conception. Yeah, and I think some people in the room remember. Maybe one other person in the room remembers Franco Harris, right? Pittsburgh Steelers, Franco Harris. You don't remember this, do you? Never heard of Franco Harris, guys? Guys, you got to get cultured. Franco Harris, the guy. This is serious stuff. Franco has a playoff game. Franco Harris, the Oakland Raiders against the Pittsburgh Steelers. Pittsburgh was down. They were on their last play. So the quarterback threw, it's a playoff game. Quarterback threw a desperation pass down the field. One of the Oakland Raiders batted the ball down. Game's over. If the ball touches the ground, game's over. Oakland wins. They go on to the next round. Franco Harris was a rookie running back on Pittsburgh. He caught the ball that the guy batted it down. The game's over. That's all he's got to do is bat the ball down. He batted the ball down. Franco Harris caught the ball about six inches off the ground, took the ball, ran it in for a touchdown. Pittsburgh won it, and they were calling it the Immaculate Reception. They called it any 12-year-old kid in America at the time, if you would have said to him, what's the Immaculate Conception? He would have said to you, Franco Harris's touchdown. And I got news for you. Franco Harris was a lot more significant than the guy who they talk about in the Immaculate Conception. He never scored a touchdown. Franco Harris won Super Bowls. That's a lot more significant. So he was just he was super, but now there's a mamzer for you, right? But what do you call it? But Franco Harris scored a touchdown. So the luchos are teaching that Torah is permanent and unchanging. However, watch this. There's a medrash that says the luchos can be rolled up. The stone can be rolled up. You ever see they do Hagbah? In a shul, you pick up Hagbah, you pick up the Sefer Torah. By the way, if you ever do Hagbah, gentlemen, there's a trick. How do you do Hagbah? Get it on the edge. You get it about halfway and just push down, and it pops. And when you try to lift it right off the thing, just lift it up with your wrist like that. It doesn't go. You push it towards the edge, push down as you lift up, and it just kind of pops up in the air like that. And that's the trick. That's why you pick it up. Now, here it says, then you roll the Sefer Torah. By the way, when you open it up, you only need to open 3 columns. You open 3 columns wide. Sometimes guys have contests, I remember back in youth group in Bnei Akiva, what you would do is you would loosen it up. I never did this, but the strong guys, you'd loosen it up you loosen it, then you could pick it up and go like this, whoosh, like that. Right? You know exactly what I'm talking about. And so that was a contest, how many columns you get. It was a beautiful spiritual thing to do that with a Sefer Torah in shul, to have a strength contest. So the what do you call it? But it was done. So here it says that the luchos could be rolled up. What do you think that means? Now listen carefully. What do you think that means? That means that the Torah may be permanent and unchanging, but that doesn't mean there isn't flexibility. Please don't crack the shells over there in the corner. The Torah is permanent and unchanging, but it doesn't mean there isn't flexibility in the Torah. That means halacha itself is flexible, but that's built into the unchanging nature of Torah. Now, how do you? That sounds like a bit of a contradiction. How could the halacha be? How could Torah be permanent and unchanging? Yet there's flexibility in the halacha. Right? Interesting question, isn't it? The answer is, for example, let's say you have this question of a piece of dairy fell into a fleishik pot. All right, so depending if there's 60 times as much, if it's hot, all the issues around it, And then the halacha says whether it's treif or whether it's treif or it's not treif. Okay. But do you know that the halacha, built into the halacha, is taking into consideration whether or not there's a significant loss. And if there's a significant loss, halacha looks at it differently. That's built in. That flexibility is built into the halacha. You understand? The flexibility. So that it's permanent, it's unchanging, yet the luchos could be rolled up because that is evidence of the flexibility of the halacha. Okay? Now, let's go on. We got a lot to do. You'll notice that there's the missing the vav. Look at the pasuk again, gentlemen, in 492. Vayiten Moshe kechaloso ledaber ito behar shnei luchos ha'edus. Now, how would you spell the word luchos? Lamed vav ches vav taf, or lamed ches vav taf. There's a vav that's missing in the luchos. Luchos even. So the idea that the vav is there, Rashi says, why is there no vav there? Look at Rashi. Where is it? Where is it? Luchos. Okay, good. Thank you. Second line from the top left column. Luchos. Lamed ches taf ksiv. Luchas ksiv, which is singular. Shehayu shtehen shavos. They were both equal. The tablets were equal. Now, what that means that the tablets were equal. What was written on the right tablet? What was written on the left tablet? On the right tablet, you have which mitzvahs on the right tablet? Anochi Hashem Lokecha, Lo Yelecha, not ases and los ases. What do you got on the right? The 5 on the right one were man to God obligations. By the way, includes honoring parents. That's a man-to-God obligation. You would think it's a man-to-man obligation, but the Gemara in Kedushin says, someone who honors his parents, it's as if God says, if you honor your parents, it's as if you've honored me. Which means you have to look at your parents a certain way. And parents say, honoring your parents is big stuff. And if you're honoring your parents, you're honoring God. You know why? Why is it? If you're honoring your parents, it's like you honor God. God says, if you honor your parents, it's as if you've honored me. Why? Why do we have to honor God?
Because you're respecting your creators.
You're respecting your creator. You're good. You're respecting your creators. Take it one step further. What's our goal in life? What is the purpose of man life? The purpose of man in life is to acknowledge God. Thank God for what we've got. If you honor your parents, that means you're acknowledging the fact that they've given you something. They've given you life. They've given you sustenance. They've taken care of you. They give you money. You give them aggravation, right? It's an even change, right? It's an even exchange. You're honoring your parents means you're acknowledging the givers. And ultimately, we have to acknowledge God as the giver. So the right column, the right luchos, is the man-to-God obligations. The left luchos is the man-to-man obligations. Now, what does it mean they're equal? What does that mean they're equal? It means one doesn't go without the other. You have people who say, well, the most important thing is to be a good person. What's the difference if I put on tefillin as long as I'm a good person? There are people who say that, right? If you're a good person without keeping Shabbos, so why are you being a good person? You're not being a good person because God said so. Because if you really cared what God said, you'd be keeping Shabbos. If you cared what God said, you'd put up a mezuzah. So you're not being a good person because God, you're being a good person because you feel like you want to be a good person. And the day you feel like not being a good person, you won't see much a good person. Just ask the Germans. So if you're not a God follower, so what does your mentor? What does it mean? You treat people well. Well, yeah, that's subjective. I consider that treating people well. You consider something else treating people well. If you're a good person, that doesn't mean anything unless you keep the right side. And if you keep the right side isn't enough. You can't just be focused on God. There are people in your world also. That's also part of Judaism. Judaism is not only vertical. Judaism is horizontal as well. Sometimes people get all caught up in their religious devotions, but they're only looking upwards and elbowing people on the side. Not enough. You have to be able to be looking, you have to look vertically and you have to look horizontal. It works in both directions. It's equal. They go hand in hand. A person who neglects his man-to-God obligations, you're going to eventually neglect your man-to-man obligations. A person who neglects his man-to-man obligations, eventually you're going to neglect your man-to-God obligations. It's all the same characteristic. You would see what it boils down to, which we've mentioned in the past. Are you focused outward or are you focused inward? If it's all about me, so then I don't care about people, I don't care about God. If you're focused outward, so you'll care about God, you'll care about other people too. And it's the same, it's all one trait coming out. Okay, let's go to the golden calf. Bottom of the page. Vayar ha'am, 492, bottom line. Here we go. Vayar ha'am ki boshesh Moshe l'redes minahar. The people saw that Moshe was late coming down from the mountain. Vayikohel ha'am al Aaron. They gather on Aaron. Vayomrei elav kum aseh lanu Elohim, make a god for us. Asher yelchu lefanenu. Ki zeh Moshe ha'ish asher alanu me'eretz Yitzrayim lo yadanu mehayolo. We don't know what happened to Moshe. Now, the Jewish people over here made there was a miscalculation. The miscalculation was that Moshe Rabbeinu told them, I'll be back at a certain time, and by their calculation, it was 6 hours late. Now, if you got to put this in the proper perspective, this is a man who in Egypt would tell Paro exactly when the plague is about to happen, and it happened on a dime. It's never, all of a sudden, Moshe's late? Moshe's late, for the Jewish people, it's unimaginable. 6 hours late, he said he's going to be back. They made a miscalculation. But based on their calculation, he was late, number one. Number two, think about their situation. This is the man who took them out to the desert. They're out in the wilderness, and all of a sudden he disappears. And the last thing they saw was he went up a mountain. I mean, this happens nowadays too. People go climbing Everest or K2 or something. Next thing you know, you can't find them. They haven't come back. They're not up there getting luchos, that's for sure. That means they're buried in an avalanche somewhere. So, yeah, there are people who do that, by the way. I'm assuming you don't. I play chess personally, but I don't mountain climb out in the Himalayas. There's a guy. What's the name of it? There's a guy who does free climbing.
I don't know his name.
Do you know what I'm talking about? This guy does. He actually climbed El Capitan, free climb without any sort of net and without any sort of what do you call it?
Harness.
What harness, net, anything? Just what's it called? Like a rock climber? Just free climb. He actually climbed El Capitan. Yeah, I haven't done that either. I do jump up and down on my bed, but that's about it. I don't do this free climbing. I'd like to. I just don't have time. So the
recommend for doing that.
Well, yeah. I'm a daredevil. Yeah. So that's not for me. So they also have people who go swimming with, they tell me scuba divers. Oh, that's another one. Yeah, scuba diving. So what happens? They go scuba diving where there might be sharks. They said it's not a problem because the shark comes. You know what you do if a shark comes? They say what you're supposed to do? Yeah, just punch him in the nose. That's what they say. That's what you do with a shark. Just punch him in the nose. Yeah, Oh, you see. Okay, yeah. Okay, yeah, punch him in the nose. When you're paralyzed with fear, it's difficult to move your arm, right? And when you try to punch the shark in the nose and half your arm stays there, that's also what do you call it? The surfers. You surf? Do any of you surf? Yeah. Yeah. Where do you surf?
Cape Town.
Cape Town. What kind of water is good for surfing?
It's always been in the winter. Winter's actually been in the summer.
Winter's better than summer. Yeah. What kind of creatures are in the water where you surf?
Sometimes sharks.
Sometimes sharks. Yeah, not too often. Yeah. They're friendly sharks. Yeah. Surfing. I take baths. I don't know if that counts.
All right, doesn't Moshe say it'll happen around midnight with the plagues? He didn't know exactly when.
Right. That's only so that they shouldn't make a mistake. But the Jewish people knew that it was going to happen. In the first plagues, he said it's going to happen, and he's precise. And again, he's 6 hours off. And even if that's not an issue, but now they're stuck alone in a desert without the man who's been taking care of them. So it creates there's a certain feeling of desperation here. Now, let's understand this is not what it looks like. Because the Jewish people clearly say, and this is a vital point over here, they clearly say, we want a replacement for this man, Moshe. They weren't looking for a replacement for God. They weren't a bunch of idiots. And in the next page, when he finally makes the golden calf, and the people say, this is the God who took you out of Egypt. They're not idiots. They saw the golden calf come out of the fire. Not one of the commentaries understands it that way. No one understands that they pointed to the golden calf and said, that's God. Because these people were sophisticated people. So what was the agenda over here? The answer is, there are different approaches. One of the basic approaches here is that they were looking for an intermediary. They saw Moshe as an intermediary between them and God. They wanted an intermediary to go between them and God, and they want a permanent intermediary to replace an intermediary of flesh and blood who could go up a mountain and disappear. So they're looking for an intermediary. And the intermediary, the ox, the golden calf, of the ox is one of the images in God's throne. There's a very sophisticated approach over here. And what they fail to understand is we don't need intermediaries. That is Avodah Zarah. With the best intentions to use an intermediary to contact God, an image to contact God, that is idol worship. You don't need an intermediary. All you need is a sitter. Talk to God yourself. That's all, and that's the mistake over here. But you have to understand, these are panic-stricken people, number one. And according to other commentators, it wasn't even the Jewish people. Who was it who did this? It was the Erev Rav. It was the mixed multitude that came out of them, the Egyptians, who Moshe Rabbeinu took with them and joined the Jewish people when they came out of Egypt. And the flaw of the Jewish people that they're blamed for is that you didn't protest against it when you saw it going on. You should have burned some garbage cans. You should have blocked some streets. You should have painted on Jews' lives matter. Right? And you should have protested. You should have protested against the sinners. That's why the Jews are taking the task. But whatever else it wasn't that they said that this is God. Now, let's look at Aaron's reaction. A very interesting reaction here. What does Aaron do? They said, we want a replacement. So, by the way, what will eventually become the atonement for the golden calf? Yom Kippur atones for everything. What specific is going to atone for the golden calf? It's going to be the Parah Aduma, the red cow. The red cow is the atonement for the golden calf. Why is that? It's a fascinating idea. The Jewish people, before Har Sinai, before this Avera, they reached what level? Did anybody ever hear the idea? They reached the level of Adam Harishon before the sin. There was not going to be any more death in the world. There was not going to be any more death. The golden calf brought back death to the world. They reached the level of Adam before the sin where there was no death. There was no death. There were no problems. Everything was good. No midterms. Right? No traffic. All the things in life that hassle us. Right? How do you like that? No traffic, no midterms, right? No aggravation in life. And they reached that level. That was the level that they reached. What happened? They worshipped the golden calf. What did they bring back? Brought death back to the world. If a person becomes ritually impure, how does he become purified? There's only one way to be. If a person comes in contact with a dead body, how do you become ritually impure? Only the ashes of the Parah Aduma. That's the connection. The cow, the golden calf, is the child. Who's the mother? The red cow. The cow is the mother. Well, if you know what the Medrash says, imagine a maidservant walks into the king's palace and she has a child. And the child does something socially unacceptable on the floor in front of the king. Who's supposed to clean it up? The mother cleans up with the mess that the child made. Well, who made the mess? The golden calf made the mess. The calf made the mess. Who cleans it up? The mother. The mother is the cow. The red cow is the atonement for the golden calf. And by the way, why is it red? Why a red cow? Red is always the color of sin. Whenever there's red, like anything, red is always, that's why it's a color that attracts attention. It excites people. It brings out certain passions which are unhealthy. But more than that, you know there are 7 levels of gold. The Gemara says there are 7. What's that?
White gold.
White gold. There's a yellow gold, white gold. You know what's the highest level gold? It's something called red gold. Red gold is the highest. So they're using a Parah Aduma. So what do you use a red cow? Use a Parah Aduma. That becomes the atonement. But at a deeper level, you know why that's the atonement? What did the Jewish people do here? Jewish people decided to overthink matters. Right? Sometimes in life you think too much. Don't be so smart. Do what you're told. Don't start thinking about it. Just do what you're told. Remember I told you baseball players are in a slump. They used to talk about a player's in a slump. He's thinking too much at the plate. Don't think. Just go up and do it instinctively. And in our life, it means just do what you're told to do. Just do what you're told. Don't think. I've thought it through already. My kids sometimes will say to me, Daddy, why are you doing that? I said, listen, there's a reason for everything I do. If I'm walking out of the house with 2 ties around my neck, I've done that. And the kids say, Daddy, why are you doing that? I said, I have a reason for everything that I do. And I have a reason because I plan on changing my tie in the middle. When I get to the bus, I'm going to be taking it off. I just haven't had a chance to put it in my bag yet. But I have a reason for doing it. It's not that I didn't realize I'm wearing 2 ties. I have a reason for doing what I'm doing. Or if I start, if I have 2 spoons at the table instead of a spoon and a fork, right? Daddy, why are you doing that? I have a reason. Don't worry. There is a reason I'm doing this. For whatever reason it is. One is for eating, one is for hitting the person next to me. Whatever it is. But I've thought about what I'm doing. It's not like I haven't done it. Here, they were given instructions. Don't worship idols. But we have an idea we'll serve God better, and they have it's all very, very sophisticated. You did too much thinking. So what do you come up? What's the atonement? The Parah Aduma, which makes the least sense of all of everything in the Torah. Why are the ashes of a red cow sprinkled on a dead person again? And now you're pure. Doesn't make any sense from a human perspective. Right, that's why it's an atonement. Here you thought too much. Over there, don't think at all. This made sense to you, but it was wrong. So we'll do something that makes no sense and it's right. That's why the Parah Aduma is the atonement. What does Aaron do? Aaron decides to stall. First thing is a stall tactic. And he knows how to stall. Look what he does. So Aaron says, Vayomer aleim Aaron. 3rd line. Last word. Parku nizme azav asher ba'oznei neshechem. Go get the gold from the earrings, your wives' earrings. B'nechem, your sons and your daughters, ovio elai. Go tell your wives you want their gold earrings. Try to get an earring off a woman. All right. Hey, try to go to your wife, tell your wife, can we get it? Yeah. Now the men are coming over. We want your earrings. Why? We got something going. What? Nothing. Just us and our. We got a project. What is the project? Well, we're going to make this golden calf. And the women, they didn't get involved. Gold calf, that's idol worship. No, you don't understand. I understand very well. You're not touching these earrings. And the Medrash says they didn't get them. They had to bring their own. The women went. That was a stall tactic. I don't know what the Gemara says. It was the merit of the Jewish women that they got out of Egypt. The women weren't involved in idol worship. It was the men who made the trouble. And Aaron says, go get the gold. It's like getting earrings off a woman is like getting her to give you back the credit card. Try it, boys. Doesn't happen. Like, I don't know. Oh, not now. You're like, get the earrings of. Get the earrings from your women. And the women always sense. They have the sense that the men are up to something. If you ever walk into the house, your wife says to you, "Hi, what's going on?" "Oh, nothing." She knows. She knows. Then you sit down, you start eating, and after a few minutes, what's going on? Nothing. Just had an idea. What kind of an idea? Well, I just realized that if we take an extra loan, get an extra mortgage, pawn 2 of the children, we can go for the big one. All right? I was talking to my friend Shimmy. We're going to go for the big one. You're not going for the big one. We're not pawning children. We're not taking a mortgage. We're not taking a loan. Just sit down, eat your soup, and go back to work tomorrow morning. That's it. And she saved you because had you done it your way, you would end up in prison. Right? And they have that sense that it's not either broke or prison or both. And therefore, the women, Aaron says, go get the earrings from your wives. Go get the gold from your wives. Why? Men had plenty of gold. He knows that that's going to help her. Doesn't work. Vayisparku. Now look at the next pasuk. You'll see how precise it is. Vayisparku kol ha'ames nizmei hazav asher be'ozneihem. They took off the earrings on their ears. They didn't take their wives' earrings. They wouldn't give it up. Vayaviu el Aaron. And they bring it to Aaron. Okay, we'll continue with this tomorrow.